Welcome to Mr. Erbac's Gaming. Happy Halloween! Last year, I reviewed a Game Boy entry to a classic Konami series, Operation C, a very good game of the Contra franchise. For Halloween season, I'm going to look at an entry of Konami's action horror franchise, Castlevania, a Game Boy entry, Castlevania, The Adventure. The Castlevania legend would kick off in Japan on September 26, 1986 for the Famicom Disk System. In May 1987, the US NES would get a Castlevania release. Simon Belmont would return and continue his quest in Castlevania 2. An arcade entry would hit in '88 with The Haunted Castle, and a third adventure would come to NES in 1990, but not before the 1989 release Castlevania, The Adventure. So put that controller away. Grab your cross, your gauntlet, your whip, and your Game Boy. Okay, just your Game Boy. As I look at this portable entry in the classic series you can take on the go. Maybe bring a light at least so you can see these horrible creatures in the dark. Here's some insight into the story. Sheer terror is at hand. To confront the death-defying Count, insert the cartridge into the Game Boy, and then click on the power switch. When Konami appears on the screen, press the start button. Now you're in the misty mist of Dracula's less than welcoming lair. There's no place to hide, no place to run. The only direction you can go is dead ahead into the darkness that is Castlevania. With the taste for sweet revenge on the tip of his fangs, the bloodthirsty Prince of Darkness hungers for a succulent delicacy, and your throat is definitely on his menu. But before you reach the host of horrors, you must risk your neck against multitudes of unearthly evils that lurk around every corner. All told, there are 4 levels of dank dungeons, torture chambers, and vampire crypts. At the dead end of each, you'll find the primary evils waiting to terrorize you. Before proceeding to the next level, you must crush and demoralize, not that it has a lot of morals to speak of, this beast. At the end of the 4th level, you'll enter the dead of night, where you'll come toe-to-toe, eyeball to eyeball with everyone's favorite bloodsucker, Count Dracula. And it's here that you'll either vanquish his midnight powers forever or be initiated into his vampire core. Your sole means of protection are your magic whip and mindful wits, which will lead you through Drac's menacing maze. Along the way, be sure to light the candles with the tip of your whip. It's a surefire way to unleash life-sustaining items such as hearts, crystals, and crosses of gold. There's a time limit in each stage, and if you fail to destroy the primary evil or Count Dracula before it expires, you'll expire! The game is set a century before the events of the original Castlevania. You, the player, now control Christopher Belmont, an ancestor of Simon Belmont. Your quest kicks off at an outside area with woods and a graveyard. You'll eventually make your way through a dangerous cave, and finally through Dracula's giant castle. There are only 4 action-packed levels in this game, but they are long and tough. If you play previous Castlevania games, you can pick up and play immediately. The B button is your attack button, and the A button is the jump. Just like before, you start out with a normal whip. So as I said, you start off with a whip, but there are crystals that can upgrade your whip. One crystal will lengthen and strengthen your weapons to take out the creeps that come out at night. A second crystal will give your whip the power to spew forth
Fireballs. No need for another crystal unless you lose a power-up. By the way, don't pay attention to the back of the box. It was written in such a way that it implied the game's protagonist to be Simon Belmont. This caused confusion. In Japan, it was always crystal clear that the game took place before Simon, and that Chris was featured. You start out with 3 lives, earn enough points and you'll earn an extra life. You can also find the rare 1-up item. Speaking of items, as you can see, there are no sub-weapons to find. The flashing crystal is to call forth a boss. The coin is for a higher score, of course, which can lead to an extra life. A cross of gold is a temporary invisible item instead of a weapon like previous games. And the hearts are actually for health in this game. In Castlevania, it gave you sub-weapon extra shots. Every level has an end boss. The final level has 2 end bosses. All levels involve you going left or right, up sometimes, down to get to those bosses. These levels and your character move so much slower than the console Castlevania games. Castlevania is well known for being a difficult game. This version is much harder. Stairs have been replaced by ropes. It sometimes feels cramped. One hit takes down your vampire killer a notch. Chris moves extremely slow, and the jumping like Operation C, you need to be extra careful, even more so here. This game may be too tough for some, but you have unlimited continues at your disposal, and checkpoints. But if you lose all your lives, it's back to the start of the level for you. Every level has a secret room full of goodies. They are very tough to find, but you need these goodies. If you dare to take the challenge, see if you can find these secret rooms yourself. The classic Castlevania is reflected pretty good in this Game Boy entry. The graphics are as good as they could be for an early game on this system that has limitations. The backgrounds are full of detail. There's a variety of architecture and textures. The creatures and enemies of the night are well represented when comparing to the instruction manual. The sound effects are nothing to write home about, but the music will have you whistling those awesome tunes. The music is the best part of the game. As for the gameplay, even though it's simplified, it is so slow, and I mentioned the jumping. Hazardous jumps require Belmont's sprite to be hanging half off the platform to have the confidence to jump. At least using your vampire killer still feels very satisfying. Like other Konami games, the player has an opportunity to play even a harder version of the game. What? Well, replay value. Okay, so let's go over the negatives. First, it's insanely difficult, especially the second half of the game. Belmont is really slow. Movements are sluggish, jumping is sluggish, avoiding attacks sometimes is out of the question, prone to flickering and slowdown. Stage 3 with its moving paths is a nightmare and patience testing. This game at times goes from challenging to downright unfair. Lack of consistency in particular. Brutal stages, but easy bosses. Don't forget, you also have the timer to deal with. As a kid, I could not get out of stage 2 before my patience ran out. This is on the border of so hard, it's bad. I can only recommend it to a hardcore Castlevania fan who wants to complete their collection. Otherwise, skip it. But it's definitely playable and not as bad as some would say, especially as an early Game Boy title. A passable 6 out of 10.